Yeah, I'd like to bring the Wolfeboro Select Board work session meeting on Thursday, May 8th, 2025 to order. We have any non-public tonight?
Mr. Chairman, we do not.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
point of information, I don't believe this is a work session. I think this is a special meeting, so we can do motions. Sorry.
Okay, I have work session on my paperwork. I don't know what you guys have.
I didn't get one.
It was noticed as a meeting.
Meeting?
So, yep.
Okay,
Special.
all right. So we'll change that to just a regular meeting session. We're here to discuss the town ordinances, Chapter 36, Docks and Wharves. And I'd like to keep this one person talking at a time and be recognized by me to speak, all right? Okay, who would like to go first? Brian?
I'd like to make a motion. My motion is to affirm the Docks and Wharfs Ordinance 36-5, Part O, only recommending eliminating O number 5 and leaving all other verbiage as is with no additional changes. And if anybody, does anybody need an explanation of what O is? O is the Libby Dock, the commercial use for the Libby Dock, for its hours of operation and all its permitting. And number 5 is a flagman wearing a fluorescent vest shall be in attendance to direct traffic.
I'll second that.
So effectively, we're just eliminating number 5.
Yes.
Any discussion?
Sure, I sent in an item, and we were asked to send in items to the board, and I think Brian's getting a little out in front, to tell you the truth, because we have had some discussions, and we talked about limiting the amount of time to 1 hour, so that more than one person, more than 4 people can sit there all day to load their barges. We have talked about increasing the rates. We've talked about using Libby funds to benefit the Libby Museum site. And I do not support Brian's motion. I support increasing the funds from $3,000 to $5,000, which is in this 5/6/2025 draft. Number 6. Oh, number 6.
Mr. Chairman?
Just a minute. Well set for
That's
now.
all set.
Paul?
So, but just for clarity, the motion that's on the table doesn't address anything that you just mentioned. The motion that's on the table effectively eliminates item 5 saying a flag, my word, man, wearing a fluorescent vest shall be in attendance for traffic. That's all that motion does. Does nothing else.
That's not how I hear it. Maybe you
Is
want to
that the intent of
clarify
your
that.
motion?
The intent of my motion is to affirm the Docks and Wharf Ordinance 36-5, Part O, only recommending eliminating O number 5 and leaving all other verbiage as is with no additional changes.
So then maybe you're right, John. Is your item 6, the fee of $3,000, you're saying stays?
No, I'm saying
No,
it's
I'm
gonna
asking
increase to
I'm asking the guy who made the motion.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, it stays as is, because when we take our Docks and Wharf Ordinance to a public hearing, the public is going to be looking at what we have, and there can be changes made at that hearing if we need to. But for now, I would like to basically stop the discussion of this, because we have to start putting pieces together for the public hearing instead of talking about them over and over again.
So you're saying number 6 stays at 5,000?
No, stays at 3,000 at its original, because we haven't moved or made any motion or voted to increase it to 5,000. That was just a suggestion. And we haven't changed the hours of the original ordinance. That was just a suggestion. So my motion takes it back to the original ordinance that we decided on a couple years ago, leaves it as is, except removing the flagman, and then we can push it to the public hearing.
And that was my second. That was my understanding.
That's your
All right.
understanding?
I
Correct, that was
misunderstood.
my understanding.
I misunderstood.
So can I further discussion?
Sure.
So I think Brian sent us out some information. I think one of the key details that Brian left out was how much the barge people have increased their rates over time. We don't know how long $3,000 has been there. And we do know that every year the costs have gone up dramatically. And for the rate just to stay at $3,000 doesn't really justify the increase of the times.
Was it 2021 that we increased the barge to, 2021 or 22 is when we increased the barge to 3,000?
It was on 5/4 of 2022 as amended in the,
Yep,
So it's 3,000, that's 3 years ago.
yeah.
So
Yep.
So could I speak to this, Dave? Can I speak to it? So you can always make a motion to increase prices. You can do that. The great dilemma here is, at least for me, and it's pretty simple the way I look at it. There's only two ways you can set prices for this particular area. First things first, that dock area has a restricted fund that no monies can be used for anything else other than, correct me if I'm wrong, board, because I wasn't here when you did it, but for the dock, the ramp, that's it, right? That's it. It's a restricted fund. No other purpose can be used for that. Having said that, there's only two ways you can set prices. You can say, what's the useful life of the dock? What's the annual repair? Let's assume you only get 5 people who sign up to use it, barge people. You could come up with a rate just like that. Or you could do software pricing, value, and we want to, and I'm not a big believer in value pricing as it relates to this. We ought to have cost recovery plus a contribution to capital, and that's what I would say is the right thing to do. Right now, we have $32,000 in the bucket. And my question, if I could, Dave, to the town manager, do you have any asks on that budget right now for dock repair, estimates for anything going on down there?
at this time, I'm not sure. I can tell you that I believe in 2019, we did about $30,000 worth of repairs to the seawall. We also did repair to the launch. I think that was about $20,000. I think there is some work that needs to be done to the dock, but I'm not really prepared to speak to that.
Okay, but the seawall, I'll finish here. The seawall is not in the equation. The only thing that's in this equation is the dock, the ramp, and we do or don't know what the cost of redo. We don't know what the useful life of that is yet. Okay, thank you.
Dave,
Go ahead.
I'm going to take back my second. I'm stepping down from Mo.
What I
Oh,
thought.
I'm sorry. I just didn't, I shouldn't have seconded.
Oh, that's right.
Yep,
Oh,
I'm
you
stepping,
got a-
I got a son, I'm
You got a
stepping
kid in
down.
this
So
mix.
somebody else is going to have to second it.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? Okay.
Yeah, I'd be keen to looking at, if I could, I'd be keen to looking at price if I understand what the cost recovery is. We haven't seen any of that stuff. So if the purpose of this is to leave it alone, just take out the flag person, I most likely am going to support this, but I would love to see somebody come back to us and say, here's a cost recovery model that fixes, it has a useful life, assumes a certain amount of people. I mean, this is a 10-minute piece of work that we could probably, and I'm being glib here. It's a short piece of staff work to do that. So I probably will support this, but I'll let you come back and take a bite on it for a reprice when we have that data.
Dave? And I would agree with Paul in that we can change this fee later. Like I said, I'd like to put this to bed and get this one out of the equation so we can worry about other things.
Yep.
And we could have an estimate done anytime this summer that tells us what needs to be done there, if anything, and what the cost would be, and that could adjust our rates.
Yeah.
So is the board familiar, this is our third meeting on docks and wharfs. Third meeting. We've talked about this for 3 meetings and we've hashed this out. Again, we know that there's increased costs. The people out there know that their tax bill is iconic and it's going up. Why aren't we increasing our fees?
What do you want to make it? What number do you want? You want to pick it out of the air? Which number do you want? I say, I gave you a process. Follow a process, come back with a cost recovery model, and I'd look at it and vote for it.
I don't think it's our job. We had a assistant town manager that was supposed to come back to us and get some fees and a fee structure, and now we've got a selectman out here that's gone around the lake and found that nobody else charges, but, you know, they don't have the same situation that we have. So, to me, I think it's justified, but I can already see the writing on the wall.
Well, the motion that's on the floor right now basically takes out number 5, the flagman. And that's pretty much it. The pricing we can deal with at a later date. And it's not true, from what I read of the stuff, there are other towns that charge for barge fees and so forth. That's what I read in the information I got. So, there is a motion on the floor to basically eliminate number 5 in section 0. Oh. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. That's one.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion?
Yes.
A motion for effective 1/1/2026, Wolfeboro Town Docks A through G shall only be used for non-commercial purposes as well as state and municipal boat parking. One dock space, preferably on Dock G, shall be reserved for passenger drop-off and ADA handicapped access.
You had that written down, didn't you, Paul?
I did,
Yeah, it was part of the packet.
part of the package.
Yeah, right. Just want to make sure I get,
Can I second it for discussion?
sure.
So I'm kind of in the same place with Paul, but what I was looking at doing is having the westerly side of G and the easterly side of H both be municipal areas where our 3 municipal boats go and an ADA/residential drop-off location are. So I would accept Paul's if it was dock A, B, C, D, E, and the easterly side of G.
And if I could, because I'm having east and west problems.
This is the easterly side because
So A, B, C, D, E, F, easterly side of G.
Yes, A, B, C, D, E.
Dave?
No, that's F.
Yeah, let them,
Excuse me, F and then G. So it would be A, B, C, D, E, the easterly side of F.
I'm going to keep my motion on the table.
okay, Linda?
Yeah, my only concern is the last time we talked about putting the handicap spot, and I think that's what we're talking about, on G closest to the ramp and the parking space. What Brian was talking about was another format.
Yeah.
And I just want to make clarity. And so that we would be changing F under 36.5. I agree with the fact that that takes all commercial off of any of those docks. Are you planning to come on with another motion to deal with the mailboat, the handicap?
No. I'll let you guys do that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And could I speak to my motion again, Dave?
Yep.
So I use the word preferably, one dock space preferably on G. I'm not, I don't boat there, I go there every week. But I would prefer to ask Jim and staff, because we have a lot of eyes down there and people doing things. I'd prefer to have them tell us where the right place is for passenger drop-off and for handicapped access. That would be my comeuppance on that.
Dave, can I finish up, Dave?
No?
Dave?
We're taking no input till we get through everything, and then we have public input.
Dave?
Yes.
One of the things I want to point out to the board is we had a place for pickup and drop-off on the commercial docks, and we never labeled it. And so it was never there, which I think is part of the issue we're having, because it ended up, they came into the commercial docks. I just want to point that out. If I do want to find a place on the recreational dock for a pickup and drop-off space, that is important. I think that's what we are missing down there, and we didn't follow our own ordinance and get that labeled.
So again, the only problem with listing F as a residential dock, then that means, how do we put municipal boats on a residential dock?
The motion says that A through G shall be used for non-commercial purposes as well as state and municipal boat parking. So that's permitted in this motion. One dock space, preferably on G. I'll leave it up to staff to figure out. Can be for drop-off and handicapped access.
Yeah, so I've talked to staff. Linda and I had a meeting with staff, and, well,
I don't think we labeled a spot. I don't
No,
want to
we
get.
didn't.
I don't want to get pulled into that. I
Okay.
went down and talked to them about docks, but nothing about space.
What I did, and I can say I said to him when I was there, I asked them.
Contemporaneous
Wait,
meeting.
whoa,
Sorry.
let him
No.
finish.
The question was, and some of it was, handicap spot, what would work? We talked about residential drop-off spots, what would work and what not, based on their experience and how they handle the docks. I used the information that they gave me and my own thought to decide where I thought things would work the best. And for me, right across from our fireboat, I think, in my opinion, would be the best handicap and residential drop-off spot, because it doesn't make people have to drive into a dock past everything. The dock on the end A, our dock hands said they like to reserve for largest boats. I believe the very far corner, the easterly and most north section of A at one time was a handicap spot.
Yes, it was.
It was marked
was.
as handicap.
Yep.
So the dock hands said having that dock be used for handicap would not be good for them, because that's where they put their largest boats in order to keep the largest boats from plugging other dock areas, because a 10-foot wide boat can take up a lot of the dock areas, so there's no room for any other. So that's why, and the handicap ramp is over by where those municipal boats are right now. So that gives a handicapped person a place to park, a ramp, and a close run to get to their boat. So that is where I'm looking at. That's why I would like to leave the westerly side of F and the easterly side of G as municipal and ADA/residential drop-off. And I'm using, my information is based a lot on what the dock hands who have monitored and used the docks for the last 2 or 3 years told me, how it works for them.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that 2 members of the board can meet because it's not a quorum.
Yeah.
As soon as 3 meet, we're a quorum. I guess my only problem with this now is the fact that we're making a decision on the mail boat, that it's no longer going to be there. And I thought we, and maybe I'm wrong, we read some emails from Amy saying that they were willing to just do mail service from the dock. And if that's what they're going to do, then I feel differently than the mail service and an expansion to do more special events.
Anybody else?
Are we going to vote on Paul's motion? Is anybody going to second it?
It's already been seconded.
I already seconded it.
Okay.
And just if I could comment to Brian, thanks for your painstaking trying to figure out where things are. This motion that I provided provides flexibility to use either side of Dock G,
Either side of Dock G.
right?
G only has one side.
Well, the way I'm looking at it right here, G has a side around the edge of it as well.
Oh, I see, you're saying that. Okay.
That the
Gotcha.
little piece on the
Little
end.
bump.
Gotcha.
That's right.
Gotcha, okay.
And then to my colleague's point, I've seen some motions, I've seen some discussion that was circulated to the board about addressing the mail boat issue. That's why I'm not putting anything on the table. I think there was somebody else who wrote something up for the board.
Okay. You want to repeat your motion, Paul?
Sure.
Just so we understand it again?
Yeah, let me get my laptop back alive here. Effective 1/1/26, Wolfeboro Town Docks A through G shall only be used for non-commercial purposes as well as state and municipal boat parking. One dock space, preferably on Dock G, shall be reserved for passenger drop-off and ADA/handicapped access. And that was seconded by Brian.
Right. Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm opposed.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So Dave, I have another motion I'd like to make.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to say to consider a recommendation, because we do have to have a public hearing on this, to consider a recommendation for commercial activities at Mass Landed to be limited to island properties or shorefront properties that cannot be assessed by the mainland. Such activities must be approved by the Select Board. Commercial activities are allowed but are not limited to loading and unloading of materials, transportation of tools, it's supposed to say, and workers, and temporary use of a dumpster in a designated area. Photos of the dumpster site will be submitted in person or by email on the Friday of each week as long as the dumpster is at the landing. Dates for allowed commercial activities at Mass Landing are ice out until the third Friday in May, which would put it the week before Memorial Day, and from the third Monday in October, which is after Columbus Day, until December 1st. All I'm trying to do with this is what we did the last 2 years in the spring by having contractors come to us, say that they needed a dumpster in place, say they were going out to work on islands, and it's happened 2 years in a row, and basically saying, taking what we did and putting it on paper so that somebody can see it if they come to us again next year, or the year after, or the year after.
I'll second it for the conversation.
Hey, Brian, can you line that up with what section in the ordinance?
It would,
want-
it would have to be a new section in the ordinance because we don't have anything for that yet.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will speak against it. The way it is written, it says loading and unloading, materials, tools, and all year long, I could, if I was on an island. First of all, Crescent Lake doesn't have any island, so you're talking about Wentworth. I want somebody to come work on my place. I have a siding off. They're going to take a small boat, they're going to put the stuff, the tools, the material, and they're going to day it, and they're going to go down Smith River. You're not going to get a barge or any big boat down Smith River out to my island and fix it. I think what you're talking about is a parking lot, that we should deal with the parking lot and having a permission to use the parking lot, not the dock, because people who are out on those islands will have people come and go to do repairs. So if you do it in relationship to the parking lot, that's what the requests have been. It is for the parking lot not to use those docks.
So then, would it be an amendment, commercial activities at Mass Landing parking lot?
That's what I would say.
Yeah, you're talking about the parking lot.
Okay,
Dave?
so that's my
You okay with
amendment.
that, Brian?
Yeah, that's my amendment.
Paul?
Does he need a second for that?
You should.
What?
He wants to know whether he needs, he
Yeah.
amended his motion.
All right, I'll second it so we can talk about it some more. When I read your motion, Brian, what, and you know this better than I do, you live out there. I mean, this is a year-round set of activities. People go out there year-round, right?
Yeah, well, let's be
Well-
realistic. People going out to the island are going to are most apt to go out in the summer and those months. Do some of them go out and walk on the winter? Yeah.
Work on the wintertime.
I mean, walk out there on the ice in the
Yeah.
winter? Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I
so-
would
Pretty
say
hard to
they
get up the
won't, but I think most of the time we get a request as soon as the ice goes out.
Correct.
Until Memorial Day.
So you're comfy
to
with the
put-
ice out, ice in thing?
For putting a dumpster or materials on the parking lot.
You're comfy with that?
Yeah, because we have impervious surface.
Yeah.
We had one guy put sand on it that clogged it
Got
up.
it.
So if we're talking about the parking lot, yes, I'm not, and we have something to do about trailer parking, we can look at that. So I'm fine with the parking lot, not for the docks.
And what I tried to do
That
by,
makes sense.
by looking at it and saying, we're giving them a month already, we're giving them about a month in the spring, there are a lot of people that might decide, or there are people, and there aren't a lot of houses out on the islands on.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. There's nothing, there's no islands on Crescent Lake, and there are a few islands out on Wentworth.
Yeah.
And it's when there's some major renovation,
Correct.
somebody needs it, and it doesn't happen every year.
No, but we just got unlucky, I guess. It happened 2 years in a row.
I have no problem. I think
Yeah.
it's right for the parking lot, because we do
Okay.
want to control what happens on the parking lot, not for the dock.
Okay,
Got it.
absolutely.
Does everybody understand? It's the parking lot.
Correct.
That's what we're talking. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Where do you want to go next?
Can I just say something?
Yep.
One of the things that I did, trying to figure out where we should go on the commercial docks, I went back to the Warren article of 2022, which was Article 33, Dockside Upgrade Phase 3. And it read, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $700,000 for the purpose of reconstructing and upgrading the Wolfeboro Bay commercial docks and wharfs. And then I went through, looking at the pictures, and it has the old dock without the lower say, and it says existing finger to get a lower level, and somewheres in our explanation, it says includes expansion creating greater use of a dock which provides no docking ability, which it did in the past. So the voters of this town voted to upgrade those docks, and it was commercial, and everybody understood that it was commercial. So to me, when we start talking about limiting the commercial use of the commercial docks, I have an issue. And so I think we have now know that 72.3% of the residents, voters who came out, voted in favor of that being a commercial dock. So,
Dave, just for clarity, Linda, you're referring the commercial docks to be what we call granite over the timber wall main dock?
what is labeled on our thing, from this warrant article, we made changes to our ordinance, and that was the writer on the back that clearly showed what we were calling commercial, which are those two,
Right.
and the other
Right.
recreation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that,
So we're aligned, that's good. I just wanted to make sure I understood the point on the map. Thank you.
yep,
I thought, can I speak?
Sure.
I thought we created the pickup and drop-off spot for island residents and people that wanted to do a quick drop-off. I was on a co-chair with you, and to my recollection, there was never a discussion about commercial vessels coming in to use that dock to pick up passengers so that they could have business operations.
I can tell you what we said in a warrant article going out. That's where I'm going back to.
Yeah, the warrant.
And if you look our ordinance, we didn't have drop-off and pickup there. We had it off of F. So there was going to be clearly a spot for drop-off and pickup on our recreational docks. So I can go back to what went out as a warrant article. And that, it's the document went back to that, John.
Okay?
Okay?
Sure.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think you've asked the question, where do we go next? I think Linda just brought us to where we go next, which is the commercial dock.
Yep.
And the commercial dock, in my view, I just want to put a couple of things on the table here. The commercial dock has the benefit of the Mount Washington, the Millie B, and then there are other people who have come forward to this board and asked for drop-off and pickup permissions. That's what we're talking about, is that suite of docks.
Yes.
I was not, and I didn't prepare a motion. I'll just simply say, to stir the pot here a little bit, that we are offering drop-off and pickup for commercial providers based upon their estimates and based upon our prices at 54 cents a visit. It's 54 cents. We charge them 54 cents to come on in. That problem doesn't get, first of all, I don't understand how we would set a price to do that, and I'm not suggesting we change the price. But secondly, that problem doesn't get better with scale. The more people who want to use it, it gets worse. So I think there's two things we have to deal with. One is those set of folks who don't have a schedule because they have customers who, call and say, are you available? And then we have another set of providers who do have a schedule, the Mount and the Millie B. So in my mind, and I'll shut up after this, in my mind, I see us competing with other dock providers, other marinas in this town for that space. We are offering a discounted rate, and logical would tell you just kind of come over here. We do the same thing in the Back Bay. We offer a rate at 75% off what is customarily the going rate for Back Bay docks. So my view is we shouldn't compete with our customers. We got to solve the problem. So I'll leave it there.
Dave?
So I'd like to make a motion.
Hang on a minute.
I think he was,
I don't think we're going to solve that issue.
I know,
For sure.
I know.
We need to take some time and look that over.
That's, to me, that's the rub. That's the rub that we have
Well,
to
that's
deal
the
with.
rub that you have.
That's right.
Okay. So
Okay.
I'll try and,
Hang on a minute.
okay.
John?
So I'd like to make a motion, the docks in Wolfeboro Bay and Back Bay rented out for commercial use shall be discontinued and no further commercial rents shall be allowed after 12/31/2025 for any town-owned docks except for the Mount Washington, the Millie Bee, and the Blue Ghost due to their decades-long history.
Second.
Okay, discussion piece. That leaves out, which everybody has left out of the equation, the big Sandy Island boat, which comes in a couple of times a year and drops off people in town to shop. That's their function. So the cost for footage for Paul, the landing fees we have is a formula. It is the footage of the boat multiplied by a number and then multiplied by a number of landings. For the Mount Washington, and I agree, we have to change that formula. For the Mount Washington, it makes sense because we charge them over $2,000, and that's the highest fee they pay anywhere on the lake because everywhere else on the lake, they're free. Now, let's go to the Millie Bee. The Millie Bee gets charged $1,100 a year. Miss Lauren is their sister ship. Does anybody know about Miss Lauren? It's also the Boat Museum's sister ship. It goes out of Northern something Marina, which is the old Thurston's Marina. Their dock there is free. They go out of there during the week. On the weekends, they go out of the Margate. The Margate charges them $0. So we again charge more for the Millie Bee than the sister ship gets charged at two different ports that it goes out of. So when I look at the Millie Bee and I look at Big Sandy and I look at the Mount Washington, we're already charging more than anybody else. We can double it and triple it and go up 50 times if we want, and that's not going to really balance our budget, as Paul has said before. The only other thing about the Back Bay dock, if anybody has actually gone down to look at it and see it, you walk down the stairs, you have to take an immediate U-turn left. The dock is 22 inches wide. I measured it. So the general public should not even be traversing that section of dock to get to the dock where the jet skis are. Now, the jet skis being on there, could that be a hazard? Maybe, but they give us full indemnification with the license agreement. I believe that we should move the boats off of, for the island drop-off, should come off of that dock too, because I don't think people coming into the islands should be walking down a 22-inch wide, 4-foot gangway to get to the stairs to go up. So I believe that we should move that to the next position over, and I'm okay with the jet skis because that dock should not even be used by the general public right now at all. If we rebuild the docks and make it so that it is a safe, usable dock, then I would support John.
I'd like to add an exemption to my, add also to my motion that the Big Sandy be exempt from all fees because it's a camp boat.
But allow them to come into the Mount Washington dock as
Correct.
they have.
Correct.
And I think they're scheduled for Wednesdays, unless it's bad weather. Linda?
Yeah, I guess I will not vote to support this. Here we are. We have two boats, Winnie Adventures and Wake Winnie, that come into that small drop-down platform. And the Winnie Adventures, we've had no issue with, have had no calls on. One of the problems with Wake Winnie is, again, we didn't follow our ordinance. They're only supposed to get a commercial vehicle landing permit per boat, and he has 6. So we've got this congestion down here because we didn't keep to our own ordinance. I wrote up a ordinance that mimics our hawkers or peddlers. A select board can grant the Millie Bee permission to use the first dock slip from the Mount Washington for a landing fee and a fee for overnight parking slip. Same thing gives permission for the Mount Washington, and then it says the Board of Selectmen will issue up to 5 commercial vehicle landing permit each year, excluding the Millie B and the Mount Washington. All license shall expire December 31st of each year. A person holding a commercial vehicle landing permit issued by the Board of Selectmen shall have until January 31st of each year to renew their commercial vehicle landing permit. A person failing to renew said permit within the allotted time will have their permit, and it should say not demanded, deemed open for new applicants. If a commercial vehicle landing permit becomes open due to it not being renewed, and if there is more than one applicant filed for the open space, the priority will be given to a Wolfeboro business or residence. If there is more than one applicant, there will be a lottery to pick the successful applicant. The lottery will be held by picking number out of the hat, and the commercial vehicle landing permit is issued for one boat. That way, we can control the number of commercial vehicle landing permits that we allow in a year. It gives the continuity similar to our hawkers and peddlers, that once they've invested in their business, that they can keep it. And it's just another way to look at it. I had the Big Sandy uses the Mount Washington dock. They aren't causing any of the issue. Right. The mailboat has its spot. The Millie B has its spot. It's really only those 2 boats that is the area where we have gotten the complaints from. So I would like to still keep that commercial and find a way to control the number of permits that we put out, and that I think that all supports our business community. And people come downtown, and I believe very strongly in supporting the business community. We are the oldest tourist resort in America, we say, and I think that's important. We have grown in tourism, but also our second home, people who come and they use that facility, and I think it's important that we allow to have some commercial activities there.
All right, anything else?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Brian to read his motion again, but
Oh, John.
John,
Oh, what's his name?
any other discussion over here? Paul?
Yeah, just to respond to my colleague, that I thought a lot about the hawker and peddler conversation. And it doesn't, in my view, it doesn't fit. We have little pieces of real estate that we lease or we grant licenses to for people. What we're doing on the dock is we're competing with our customers. Other marinas in this town pay taxes. They are our customers. And we are offering a discounted rate for people to come in and pick up passengers. As it relates to the importance of economic development, I look forward to having all those people who sit out on the dock, out loitering, waiting to get on the dock space to either drop their kids off or pick their kids up, or actually get a place, because you know what they're going to do. They're going to take the credit card and spend money. So the direction of the revenue is going out of our town for those few. We now have a third person, individual organization, I believe, that's coming forward, who originally had thought that they could launch off of the Libby, but now they're coming here. As I said earlier in my conversation, this problem doesn't get better with scale. It gets to a point where we have carve-outs and special exceptions, and where someone feels they got a good deal and others feel they got screwed. And that's bad blood, and that to me is not what we should be doing. I'm willing, and I believe that the Millie B, the mail boat, as long as it's on the commercial dock, as long as it's delivering mail, and the Mount Washington and the YMCA boat, they can work that out. The other things, I'm just not there.
So the only thing I will say about competing with other businesses in town is I have not yet, and I'll reach out to them, I have not heard from Goodhue Hawkins, our marina on the water, or from any other business in town that our activities on the dock are hurting their businesses. I have not heard a complaint from anybody as of right now.
It's not hurting their business, we're just offering a discounted price for what they can provide.
Well, we're going to have to work on the pricing at some point, not tonight.
I got it.
John, you want to read your motion again?
I make the motion that the docks in Wolfeboro Bay and Back Bay rented out for commercial use shall be discontinued and no further commercial rents shall be allowed after 12/31/2025 for any town-owned dock except for the Mount Washington, Millie B, and the Blue Ghost due to their decades-long history, and that camp boats shall be allowed for a free fee to use the Mount Washington dock.
And I second that.
Okay. Ready for a vote? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay, the motion fails. I think, from my perspective, is that the vessels that we've mentioned, the Mount Washington, the Sandy, Millie B, and the Mailboat, should stay just where they are. The drop-off point that we built 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever we redid the docks down there, I think I have to agree that I have not heard any problems with people going in, coming out, dropping off, picking up. The same with Winnie Adventure and the others that have been using that dock for quite a few years. I've not heard any issues about that. And I think it should stay that way. So I think we have an issue because we've taken, in a previous vote, we voted to take some areas away from the dock space where one of these vessels is parked. And that's that we moved the handicap space to the inside behind the fireboat. So we have an issue there. We have conflicting issues here. So we need to sort that out tonight. The pricing, that should not be on the table. That's going to take some more work, in my opinion, to come up with pricing. If we have pricing, maybe we don't. Maybe we eliminate it. Like most of the other towns do have pricing. I don't know, it's Wolfeboro, Meredith. They have pricing depending on what's going on. But we have a conflict here now with two spaces. So we need to look at that either tonight or next meeting. But we need to sort that out as well. So it's my feeling that we need to either amend what we had before. And yes, maybe we just move the state police boat back and Barry's boat back and open up that front space for ADA compliant and drop off and pick up as well for residential, not commercial, residential purposes. That would help, that would solve that issue right now. That's what I see. I don't know what anybody else feels about that, but we have a conflict right now.
We'd have to
The
measure.
the two votes that we've taken tonight
Yeah.
don't mesh at all as far as spaces. And it's one space. So we need to sort that out. That's what I think we move. The mill boat would stay where it is. We move the state police boat and Barry's boat back and use the end of that dock for ADA compliancy and pick up and drop off. That would solve the issue.
And you'll have to
From my
reconsider my motion, yeah. Can I ask you a question, Dave?
Yeah.
Do we know what the beam of the mailboat is? What's the width of the boat? 10 feet? Do we know what the beam of the Millie B dock is, the width of the dock?
I do not.
Don't know. Be easy for us to go measure it at some point. I'm sure somebody will.
No, I don't think so either.
The answer is not enough?
Yeah.
Tight fit?
Linda?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, just so that we're all clear here, that the board will retain the Mount Washington, the Millie Bee, and the mailboat on the town docks. Just, we're telling them that we're going to make space for them. We haven't decided where, but where those three, we're agreeing, have a space somewhere on the town docks.
I'd go along with it if you said commercial docks.
Well, we've got the
Well,
mailboat is not.
yeah.
Based on what Dave was, I'm saying we'll make room for the mailboat, the Millie Bee, and the Mount Washington on town, similar to what you were talking about, John. Those are the legacy boats, icons, whatever we want to call them, and that we're agreeing to keep those three boats somewhere on town docks. Then we can kind of figure out what Dave was saying, where exactly we place them all.
Well, we know that the new mailboat can get in and out of where it is right now. We've seen it, I've been on it when it's gone out. They don't play bumper down there, bumper boats like some of the others do, and we've seen those. So I think that, again, we have a conflict right now. We need to sort that out.
I'm assuming I didn't get a second. Nobody wants to make
Correct.
that commitment?
Correct.
Well, yeah, I'll second that,
Okay.
just for discussion, and I think that
I'm not
that's
talking
kind of
about
what John
spaces.
was getting at, I think, too, with his motion, but to me, well, anyway.
I just was trying to get us to decide that we're going to make a space for those three.
So
boats. That's
Paul's
all.
motion, though, specified that that's a residential dock and that
Correct.
the mailboat can't go there.
Correct.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
So
We've
now,
got a
if we vote on your motion, we're contradicting an earlier
Okay,
motion.
I'm just trying to get us to commit to it. So in that, because that motion passed, you're telling me the mailboat is off.
You have to move to reconsider it. Can I offer a thought?
This is my motion, and
Well,
But you
you
can't,
seconded it, Dave, so it's on the floor.
how can you reconsider if you're on the losing end of,
You can't.
I
can't.
put another motion out.
But the effect of the motion would be to undo what my motion was. That's probably debatable whether you can do that.
Okay, well,
so we have a motion
We have
that
a
was
con-
approved
yeah,
to follow the process, and now we're going to create a second motion to counteract what the motion was already, as long as we have that understood.
And technically speaking, made by a person who voted against the original motion.
All right, I'll remove it so it's very clear that this board does not want to accommodate those three boats. That's what I'm trying to get
Here's-
out,
but-
that we are not going to accommodate all three boats.
Could I offer, Mr. Senecal, could I offer a thought?
sure.
So, can we solve the problem of those three, plus the YMCA boat? I think the YMCA boat is
that's-
just, they're just in and out, yeah. Can we solve the problem on that commercial dock? Can we solve that problem? I'm making an assumption that the mail boat will deliver mail and mail only. It's not in the business of having anything other than deliver, pick up mail.
Are you talking about docking it there?
No.
Okay, you're changing what we're looking at. The other two are having dock space. You're saying you'll let them come in, but you're not going to let them dock.
Overnight.
So, and I sent it out to everybody, under commercial docks, I said the Mount Washington has been on the lake since 1872, it should be here. The Millie Bee is a commercial nonprofit. Originally, they built their dock. Until they leave, I think that they should stay there. And if they do leave, we should look for another nonprofit to fill that spot first before we go in any other direction. I think that the current drop-off location, we have 5 businesses right now that operate on our docks. We have the Mailboat, we have Big Sandy, we have the Winnie Wake, we have a new one, CW Boat Charters, and we have Winnie Adventure. There's 5. So my idea was to give out 5 permits to businesses and to limit the number of vessels that can go to that commercial dock to 10. Why? Because right now, last year, we had 9 boats. This year, we'll have one more 10, and then put the brakes on it, and that's it. So that every business gets 1 permit, the additional 5 vessels go up for lottery in case one of these groups ends up with 2 boats. And then they pick the extra 5 by lottery, and we limit the number of boats because, as far as I can tell, we didn't know that there was a problem on that commercial dock last year or the year before. Nobody told us, even though Torrin was running 5 and 6 boats. I didn't hear on a weekly basis that there was problems. So
Neither did I.
I would say that we should stop it right here and put on the brakes.
I think the problem is we didn't follow our own ordinance. We should have been giving 1 permit per boat, and we weren't. So that is on us. And so when we go to look at it, that's what we're trying to correct.
That's
My
why
hawkers and peddlers type of ordinance would control the number, and we could decide on that.
So,
Okay.
so I have a question. So, Jim, Brian just said something that maybe you can add some validity to it. Did the Millie B actually build the dock?
Yes.
They paid the money to build the dock?
Originally.
Originally, I said.
$8,800.
Yeah, originally they did.
That was to fully construct that dock?
I think it's 20 years.
Yeah.
And were there any conditions with that?
I do not know, John. I can tell you that there was, when the reconstruction took place, that was all on the taxpayer.
Yes.
That's my understanding.
That's my length of history that I can give you a response
So the
to.
reconstruction was all on the taxpayer?
Correct.
Correct.
So, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. You're saying the reconstruction was all on the taxpayer, but the Millie B paid to build the dock? How does that happen?
No,
Because the dock was originally constructed and then we reconstructed it in 2022 or 2023?
Okay,
22, I
so-
guess.
So the Millie B paid to construct the dock, but then the taxpayers paid to reconstruct the dock?
Correct.
That's correct.
So at that point, what I'm understanding is the Millie B paid to construct the dock. At that point, then the dock was no good, then the taxpayers paid to reconstruct the dock.
Yeah.
So the taxpayers essentially own the dock that
Correct.
was constructed, not the Millie B.
That's
correct.
Just want to get that
That's
out there.
correct.
Correct. And the one caveat I would state to that is when we went through the paperwork for the bond for the commercial docks, it was very clear with the bonding company, New Hampshire Bond Bank, that it was a commercial dock, which changed some of the parameters related to the commercial docks versus the residential docks.
so, Mr. Chairman, so Linda, let's do the hawkers and peddlers thing again. Let's put 5 vessels into the equation.
Yep.
So, and let's identify the 5 vessels. One of them is the Mailboat. One of them is an incumbent. The other ones are incumbents, and then you have a new entrant, which is CW Adventures. Is that?
I have no idea.
CW Boat Charters.
CW Boat Charters. This is the one that was on the yeah.
I don't know the name of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know the
You-
boat.
you're familiar with it. Okay.
And I
it's
don't want
coming in.
to, I don't want to interrupt, Paul, but the thing about Big Sandy we have to remember is it doesn't use that drop-off space.
Right.
But we
So
can
we-
still go to
The Mount.
the mounts,
They can do
doesn't mean they can't be counted because they use another
So
spot.
just for the sake
We're
of the
talking
discussion,
about-
I'm worried about, or just thinking about, not the Big Sandy, not the Mount Washington, not the Millie B. I know I'm going to catch some guff from people saying, why not? Well, I'm just carving them out. See, here's the winners and losers. But let's try to use the hawkers and peddlers thing with 5 applicants. Who knows how many boats they want to bring?
No, it's one per boat.
That's it.
We need to stay to the.
Okay, so it'd be 1 per boat. Okay.
Yep.
How would it work? Would you want would they all just come and, so the mailboat included, they'd come, pick up, drop off? How would it work?
This commercial, whoever the boats are,
Yeah.
it is a pickup and a drop-off only.
Okay, and they
Okay.
would get a license in
That's
the
right.
first year. What, they'd all bid, and there's 5 licenses, let's assume
They
it's
send a
5.
letter,
They get 5 licenses, and next year, applicant number 6 shows up, but the first 5 have already renewed, and what do we say?
They're done, just like
Or
hawkers.
grandfathered.
Well, no,
You're out.
they're out because
not
of
in.
the same thing that happens with our hawkers and peddlers. You
Yeah.
know, we had 2 people who wanted 1 spot. Only 1 got it. We didn't do a 5th spot. It's the way that you get to control the numbers, which is what I think we were talking about trying to do, because we have 1 person who has 6 boats coming in, and there seems to be congestion, which I think when you wanted to come in, was the reason. And so I was trying to, 1, put us back to 1 per boat, and finding a way that if I had a business and I had my permit, I knew that I had a business model that would allow me to invest the money and go year after year.
Okay, so now let's pick at it. So if we heard an applicant say, I got this many boats. Okay, so we would say, you're going to get a windshield tag, because I think you made the thought.
Tagged with
a flag.
Well, no, I want the bow number on.
Yeah.
You tag with the bow number, so.
Tag with the bow number. So
the-
this person has this many boats, right now would compete for this many bow tags,
Maybe.
and that's it. So this investment over here that this person made, or may have made, or may not have made, it's the way it goes. That's winners and, to me, that's winners and losers, but and I'm trying to search for something here.
I'm looking at it, and I guess I was thinking that we would allow those who have it now. So he gets 1, that's right. He only should have gotten 1. We made the mistake
That's right.
of allowing him to think he could do 6. Our ordinance always said 1 per boat. And we didn't have a mechanism or anything else. So it's really a mimic off of that, putting it here. I would give those people right now who have it, and then if
The
they did,
mailboat gets 1 right off the bat.
well, if we're saying the mailboat can't dock overnight, yeah, I would say.
They get 1
absolutely.
right off the bat.
I would, yeah. I mean, the mailboat does a service.
Right, I understand that part.
You know, and so I say, I question if they're not going to expand it, which was what I was having the problem with before. If they aren't going to do all these charters off the side, they're going to come in and they're going to deliver the mail as they have always. I think they should have a spot. That's mine.
And one last one. And what I was also, trying to figure out, that's why I asked the beam question about the Millie B and the mailboat. We know when the mount comes in. We know when the mount leaves. We know because Isaac has told us when he picks up passengers. We know when he's bringing those passengers back. And I tried to do this on a little piece of paper, and it strikes me that where the mount parks for that time where they pick up and drop off, that stock space is vacant all those other times, with the exception of the YMCA boat. Could we accommodate the mail boat by saying, listen, you got to be in and out of the Mount Washington space?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
You got a ladder?
It's,
It's like 7 feet up.
Then if the answer is, I don't know, then I don't know. Bad idea, Paul, but I'm trying to find a solution, okay? So if the answer is that doesn't work, then you compete with everybody else. Way it goes. Sorry, I wasn't sensitive to your question.
So Linda, you made a stark revelation there a second ago, because you said that the board allowed somebody to rent 6 boats when you had the option to vote against allowing the 6 boats. And so
No, what I said, we didn't follow our ordinance. When it
And
came
we didn't
in,
know that.
We didn't know
I
that.
asked this year, because I
This
had just
year.
reread it.
It's like I didn't know that
we were
they
only
needed
to
a
give
ladder.
out one, and I went over to Jim and said, are we giving them 1 per boat? And the answer was no. And so that was what triggered me. Probably we need, whenever we get one of those, to have the ordinance as part of a backup material, but I went and picked it up because I was trying to I knew we were having an issue, and I happened to read that. And I also remembered about the F, where those are on us as a board. You're free, but you weren't on it. We were, so I look at.
What we do know is that there have been multiple letters that have been written to the board that have encouraged us not to issue the commercial landing permits, because these people say they're for commercial business, there's not enough parking spots downtown, and these people come from the islands, they need the parking spots, and it adds the congestion, and we've received the letters. I'm just repeating what Mr. Purdy had said to us in his letter. You know, so we haven't really acknowledged the people that have written the letters that have tried to discourage us from allowing the commercial landing permits to happen.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
All set.
Yeah. I think we have addressed Mr. Purdy's issue. I may be wrong, and I'm sure he'll send me a thoughtful comment if I'm not. The issue that was raised is he and others want to be able to come from an island where they pay taxes and be able to have a reasonable shot at getting a drop-off and a pickup point. My motion, A through G, being now, a residential, whatever the right terminology is, I believe addresses that. The problem I think we're dealing with, and we've always had to deal with this problem, so it's not one of these newbies, is we got this commercial dock area, and it's getting congested. And we need to sort that out. One option, which you put on the table, is eliminate it, but for 3 boats, or 4, and that didn't fly. So now the question that this team is trying to figure out is how do we do it? And Linda's idea of hawkers and peddlers, while it just in my heart says it's winners and losers, it's winner, loser, competing against your customers. But I'm willing to go there if that's going to make peace. But what it's going to do is the next applicant's going to be pissed off because they can't get in. And we're going to get another piece of thought leadership on that. But that's okay. We'll have to deal with the heat.
Isn't that part of being a selectman?
I know, it's part of the big job.
Select woman,
Right.
select board member,
Yeah.
whatever we want to
Whatever
call
we call
ourselves.
Brian?
Yeah, so that's part of life, that happens. You can't
Right.
get a liquor, there's only so many liquor licenses in the state of
You
New
got
Hampshire.
most of them.
And you can't have a lottery or a casino anywhere you want in proximity. So there are, when something's full in queue, it's full in queue. Island residents use a sticker on their boat. So we don't really need to have a hang tag. We could have a sticker with a bow number on the boat so that it doesn't get moved from one boat to another boat to another boat.
I'm fine if we don't want to do it. I just want
You
a
want some
label,
identification.
and so the label is there, whatever way we decide to do it.
John wrote to us something that said that the mail boat needed 1 hour loading and 1 hour unloading time. And I'm wondering where John got that information. He can answer that when I'm done with this in a minute. And with Mr. Purdy, everything we do, there's going to be discussions on both sides. There's going to be 50% of the people that want it one way and 50% of the people that want it another way. we have to do on the docks what works for the general populace and what works on that commercial dock. And I think, Linda, you're right, it was our fault. But now that we've let somebody use 6 boats on there, it's kind of difficult to say, now you can only use one when you spent $250,000 a boat for 6 boats. That's a tough thing. You've just sunk the guy's business. So that's a tough thing that you have to think
That's
about.
not up to us.
Yeah, but it's not up to us. And one thing that is being missed again is that we should have in our ordinance, any use of the residential docks for commercial operation will result in an immediate revocation of your landing permit. And we should also increase the penalties for use of the commercial docks, which is in the ordinance, up to, from the $100 it is, up to $250 or $500 at least. That's what's customary around the lake if somebody has a commercial operation at a dock. And for fees, there are no fees at any other ports because no other port allows commercial operations off their docks. All the regulations say no. A barge is allowed to land and go from Alton with permission from the town administrator. A barge is allowed to go to Guilford by being allowed by their select board. Barges go out of Our Libby, barges go out of Harilla Landing, but no other commercial activity with fishing boats and all this other stuff are allowed out of any other public docks on the lake.
So thank you for all of that. But I think we're getting back to Linda's. Linda's got this, and I really appreciated it. But you gave us a stream of consciousness. With respect, I learned something there. But the question on the table is, so what are we going to do about this congestion we have at the commercial docks? And Linda wants to put a hawkers and peddlers theory together. How do we deal with that? Because I think that's it. That's where we are.
So,
Well, I've had a lot. John, if you
so
want to.
the last meeting, I thought that I heard the chairman say that he was willing to eliminate all the commercial aspects and of the commercial landing. And that's what I thought I heard. So, but I made the motion.
You got defeated.
The motion got voted down, and so we're basically we're individualizing, or we're taking a different approach here. Again, it's going in a direction where we're just going to get more people, and we're going to get some people that because that's what the gentleman is saying. Why do I not get that spot? Because there's this boat here that's been there, and they're not even part of our town, but they actually are part of our town. So they come with disinformation to say stuff to our board, and we have to answer to it. Again, if we just made the decision to not allow it, we would have been much better off.
Okay.
Linda?
Dave, I will go back to the Warren article. We asked them for the money to upgrade and reconstruct a commercial dock, and we talked about putting this lower level on. Mm-hmm. That was for the commercial. Mm-hmm. Where I see us we have one who has 6, mm-hmm. which was our fault for letting him out. But that's where the congestion is, mm-hmm. with that one mm-hmm. person who has 6. Mm-hmm. And what's really happening, it's not just at the commercial dock, it's in the residential docks. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wanted that bow, a number and the permit on the same thing so we could identify it, so we can address it. That Mr. Purdy's talking about, I heard him, I'm really concerned about that. But I'm not willing to say no commercial there when we asked the voters and the taxpayers, mm-hmm. and they voted 72.1% to put this money to make a lower level on that dock for commercial dock. So that's where I'm coming back out.
Is there a motion right now or no?
No.
No. So I'd like to make a motion that the town of Wolfeboro, for the 2026 season, for the rest of 2025 and the 2026 season, allows commercial operations off of allows the existing businesses to continue commercial operations off of our commercial dock.
Plus the mailboat.
Just the way it is now.
I'll second that. You want to say it again?
So my motion is just that we will continue commercial operations off the commercial dock only from the current businesses that we have issued commercial permits to this year.
That excludes the one that will be on our agenda, I believe, or can we include that one?
If you, I will.
Because we really aren't, I really don't think we can change 2025.
I agree.
For 2026, I'm okay.
Okay.
So I would remove in that apply to 2026.
So I'll
I'm-
amend my motion that says that we will continue the operations for 2026 for 5 businesses to operate off of our commercial dock.
I'll second the change.
So just
For
for clarity.
26 or 25?
For
Just 26.
Just for 26.
Because we issued a bunch of them, how can you say all?
Right.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and
Yeah, so we have 5 businesses now, 5 commercial operations, and we will have 5 again next year off of our commercial dock.
Just for clarity, my motion took effect in 2026, so is that in that 5?
But we will
Is
not
that-
be using the residential docks, only the commercial dock.
My motion, Linda asked while we were doing this, what are you going to do with the mailboat? Is the mailboat in that 5 for 2026?
Correct.
Okay.
We have
Second.
5 businesses right now.
Second.
We still have an issue with, in Paul's motion before, about the area where the mailboat is.
and if we want to change that, people who voted for it, somebody has to ask to reconsider.
Right.
Yeah, so for right now, I'm just talking the commercial docks, just where the Mount Washington, the Millie B, and our commercial drop-off and pickup is. I'm trying to see if the board wants, as a board, to continue that kind of operation or to get rid of all commercial operations. And that's what my motion is for, so that we can decide.
So I seconded your motion with the understanding that it's 5, and the one that comes off the residential dock is in that quantity of 5. That's fine.
So can we clarify which 5? The Mount Washington, the Billy B, the Blue Ghost, the Big Sandy, and what else?
The 5 are,
Wake Winnie.
the 5 are, hold on. let me
Okay,
get- let me get my
I
notes.
can, I'll read them. Winnie Adventures, Wake Winnie, whatever the new boat will
CW.
be.
CW Charters, the mailboat, and
Big
Big Sandy.
Sandy, and the mailboat.
Yeah,
Those are the 5.
those are the 5.
So the Mount Washington's not there, the Millie B's not there,
Yeah,
the Blue
they are.
Ghost are
The
there.
Blue Ghost is in there.
So you just named 7.
So,
The 2
yeah.
that were not included in this, I think, if I could, I may be misspeaking for my colleague, those 2, I'm going to use the L word. Do you want to use it?
I'll use the I word.
Use
Well,
the
I
I word.
actually-
They're iconic.
I think
You can do it.
if I misspoke, I thought I said off of the commercial drop-off and pickup location.
You did.
So that's where my motion
did.
goes.
You did.
So my motion is that for 2026, we continue to use the pickup and drop-off location for the 5 current commercial boats that we have, customers that we have. They would be the Winnie Adventure, Big Sandy Island, Winnie Wake, CW Boat Chargers, and the mailboat. But the problem with that is Big Sandy doesn't really go to that.
Right.
Well,
That's okay.
Whenever we try to do something, there seems to be an
Carve
exception.
Because
There's
boats
always
are all
carve-outs.
different sizes.
There's always an exception, right. But that's okay. I
Or
seconded
the-
your motion.
Okay.
So I can amend it to 4 customers, because we know Big Sandy doesn't go there. So 4 customers, 4 businesses to use the pickup and drop-off. That's Winnie Adventures, Winnie Wake, CW Boat Charters, and the mailboat.
That's a better
For
one.
2026. So that's my motion.
And they would be part of, and this is just for discussion, they would be part of an ongoing hawkers and peddlers kind of a deal,
We could go on and look at that as a...
but we haven't made that commitment.
No, I just,
Okay.
and I didn't make it as a motion. I
Yeah,
just
I
put
understand.
it out as for
I
you
know.
guys to take a look at
You
another...
put it up on the tee.
I'm
though.
trying to
I
take-
did, I teed it up, and I didn't
I'm trying to
demand.
take, I'm trying to take little bites of the apple is what I'm trying to do.
Right.
Take care of Mass Landing, take care of this, take
So
care of that, and work our way
I'm
through.
okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm not okay with that.
Well, it's
because
fine. You can vote against
basically You've basically said that these are the only people that you're going to be allowed, and again, why are you allowing them? You're allowing them just because you have a personal preference because of them.
Nope.
It's, yes,
Nope.
No, they're
I'm allowing them for
already registered. They already
2026.
have licenses.
I get it, but
I'm
just
allowing
saying
them for
we're
two-
taking a
for
position
2000
that
I'm
we're gonna
allowing them
just
for
allow these people, and
2026.
We're not going to allow anybody else. When we're being, if we were being fair, we would say we would allow everybody, or we would allow nobody.
Well, then we could do that for hawkers and peddlers. Let's have 50 hawkers and peddlers locations.
John, let me speak to it. I gave my impassioned plea.
ahead.
I really did. I do believe that we are creating bad blood, but I'm willing to, because I don't think my idea is going to pass. I really don't. And so I've shot my wad on that one. It's going to be ugly, but I think we probably should do it. Now, the problem's going to be, I promise I won't do the I told you so when voter number 6 comes in and says, hello, what about me? I'm not going to do the I told you so.
Yes, thank you, Paul, because sometimes in order to get something done, you compromise, and thank you for
Don't
being
point your
willing.
finger at me.
I'm glad
should.
It was the
you're
ginger.
willing to compromise. Sometimes that's how we have to do in order to make a decision, so.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Paul-
second. All those in favor of Brian's motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, passes.
Now, could I
Where do you want to go next?
add a comment to the motion we just did?
I guess
The
you're
only
going
one
to-
of those prospective folks that have been, I hate to use the word assigned, but well, you'll understand it, have been assigned to that dock. The only one of those prospective crews that has a schedule is the mailboat. And I'm not going to move that here, but I would suggest that when it comes time for us to figure out peddlers and hawkers and all of that kind of stuff, that we do consideration to their schedule. I'm not asking for a motion on that, but I do think we should give consideration to their schedule.
Dave?
Linda?
I do not believe that we have voted to ensure the Mount Washington and the Millie be their spot. And so I'd like to make a motion that the Millie Bee and the Mount Washington will continue to be permitted a commercial vehicle landing permit for their spots, the Millie Bee for its dock and for the Mount Washington up against the big dock.
Could there be an amendment that the Millie Bee is charged a license fee?
We haven't gotten into,
We haven't done anything.
we haven't done anything. We just
You're just
got
saying
all those.
locations.
I just want those locations, and we're all in agreement
Linda's
that
trying to
those
swap
two
the spot.
spots.
She just wants to
So
swap
you
the
don't, I don't think we even have to go with the landing fee, because you said a landing fee
What
for
I'm
them.
talking
How about just say that the Millie
I
Bee
didn't
and
say
the, and
landing fee
the,
this time. That was on something else I talked about. All I asked was for the spots.
so they
The
just are
Millie
going to
Bee
stay in their
spot
location?
And yes, in their location and on Mount Washington. So we get that, we clear that,
And then we
I'll
have to set the
second.
prices later.
and we have to do all, anything
I'll second
else.
that.
Okay, it's seconded. Any further discussion? All
So-
those in,
So are you saying you didn't give a timetable? Is this for the life of,
In perpetuity.
Mine's in perpetuity. I didn't put a time limit on it. Nope.
so do you have a reason why the taxpayers should pay for that dock? for those items without any fee structure?
We haven't set a fee
We aren't
yet.
dealing with fee structure, we're
I know,
just
but
giving...
I think it's
Okay.
important to set the fee structure when you talk about giving somebody a dock for ever and ever and ever.
I think as I sent things out, I talked about a landing fee and an overnight docking fee.
Just
But we aren't right now dealing with that. We just went without any kind of fees, gave permission for all the other boats for 1 year. These we've talked about being iconic and been there since 1998 for the Millie B. The Mount Washington goes back, and I'm just saying, I want those to continue, and that's what I'm asking this board to make a motion. Any other board can change it.
I was thinking about the Blue Ghost. It's been there longer than the Millie B. So again, when you're talking about giving certain boats a lifetime occupancy,
They're in.
But I lost on that. I tried to make that motion with them included, and I didn't get it because it was against, they felt it was against the motion
Right.
that Paul and you had made. So I took the mailboat off, and I'm trying now, and they were in the last motion. I'm just trying to get these two boats, the board agree that they will continue to come and have a place on our dock.
so are we under the understanding then, for discussion, that the Blue Ghost does not have a spot at this
They do have a
present time?
spot. They're going to be part of the 5.
They don't have an overnight spot.
I was going to get to that. There is, in one of the last emails, if you read the email chain, it says, I still haven't heard anything back about insurance. I might not even put the boat in the water and just pause all charters and passengers for the meantime and use a different boat to deliver mail. So this is why I'm doing 1 year, because we got to figure this out.
Right.
And I'm giving us some time. And for schedule, the Millie B does have a schedule. 10:45 to 3:45 every hour is their schedule. Are there people on the boat every time? No, if there's a hurricane and a monsoon and it's raining or whatnot, there's not. But that, at least they do supply us with a schedule. And it is very difficult for anybody who does a charter business with a boat to give you a schedule and stay with it 100%.
Right.
That's impossible. That's like golfing in a golf league every week. If it's thunderstorms, the golf league's closed for that day.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
Who seconded the motion? I think
Brian.
you did, right?
Brian did.
Yeah, I did and you did
I
at the
think I
same
did
time.
too.
Yeah, both of us.
Well, whatever, it was
Yep.
second.
Yep,
We
Yes.
had discussion.
yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Where do you want to go next?
I want to go to Back Bay.
Yes. For lunch or to talk about
No, I
boats?
was thinking I had dinner last night over at the, never mind. I'd like to make a motion that, well, I'll preface the motion. I can't explain to myself why we lease a dock at 75% discount to what is comparable dock charges in the Back Bay. I can't explain that to myself. And I can't explain to myself why we're even in that business in the first place, competing with our customers. But we'll probably go on with that, but my motion is that dock space leased in the Back Bay for any commercial vessel or commercial undertaking shall have its lease structured by the average comparable rates of the marinas in the Back Bay. In other words, that's my motion. So that the price for the Back Bay dock lease shall be the average of comparable rates for other dock providers in the Back Bay.
So the market value, the market price.
The market rate. I'm looking for a second.
Market rate.
I'm shopping for a second.
Somebody want to second that?
Look at that.
Ba-boom.
Ba-boom. Okay.
I will,
Linda?
yeah, the problem I have is that the different docks give different services and are different types of docking space. So, you know, if you go to Sawmill Marina, they have somebody there who takes care of it. You can't take that.
Correct.
And are you talking, this is for my clarity, are you talking about the dock spaces only that are rented?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not talking of any of the condominium, because of most of the docks are in there are condominium.
I've rented out of Sawmill Marina. I get a dock space. I pay. I write a check at the beginning of the season. Nobody takes care of it. I pull up. I pay money. What I'm saying is, if we
Okay.
lease our docks in the Back Bay, at a minimum, the revenue we should expect, if we decide we want to do it, which winners and losers here, at a minimum, the revenue should be comparable to the market. That's my motion.
What I would have to do to support that, so there will be the next meeting probably, is call Sawmill, see what they rent, see what comps are back there, maybe even check to see if there's docks rented in like the basin, because the basin is another area, and just see where it falls, so that I know a number.
And I think we have to look at the quality of the dock space is another component. I think if there were a bunch of different criteria, I feel better than just price, because where they're being rented off of is not something you would rent, get a very high price from.
And I'm just putting words in my mouth, not yours. So,
I'm just
hey, we
respond-
got a dock that's not in the best of condition, and, you know, wink, wink, we can get you a 75% discount off comps. We should either have them fixed up or not.
Or you going to dredge? I mean, there's hardly any.
We just don't make that available.
Okay, I just was trying to get clarity.
So I went and looked at the docks because I've heard how bad they are. Right now, they're right at the water's type. And they're not that bad.
The lake's high.
And they're not that bad. Those docks, I grabbed posts and I pulled like heck. Some of the posts are a little bit loose. It would take a lag to put them together, but the docks are solid. The docks need to be, in my opinion, cleaned and sealed so that they will last for a few more years. The stairways need to be cleaned. It could be cleaned up and it would look okay, and we could probably get another 5 years out of it easy. My problem with that dock, and the minute I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness. I was very concerned for both the island people that dock there and for the jet ski. Now, I guess if the jet ski's customer falls in the water, that's on them. We have indemnity from that and the whole bit. But there is only a 22-inch wide walking path for 4 or 6 feet, maybe more, maybe 8 feet to get to that dock. So as used for the general public, the way it's constructed now, it shouldn't be. So that's, I think, a reason why to cut the market value. Maybe not 75%, maybe 50%, because it is that dock. But I do have a concern that we should move the island docking over one to the southeast, west, I can't remember now.
Well, my objective is accomplished. It's on the table. Brian, I think you said respectfully you're going to go do some comps. Great.
Yeah.
And when it's all said and done, we have to explain to people why we offer a product competing with our customers at a pick the number, 50 to 75% discount off list. And the answer, in my view, can't be is because our docks suck. They're cheaper.
Well,
It can't be like that.
It does work that way, because we've rented docks. We've rented docks at Pick Point, floating docks. We've rented docks at Pier 19. I've rented docks at Harilla Landing in the water, floating and regular. I've rented a rack in Harilla Landing. I've had a mooring at Wolfeboro Corinthian Yacht Club.
I haven't heard of the town of anybody.
I've
doing
had valet at Wolfeboro Corinthian Yacht Club. And guess what? And I've rented one that's at the church on the way to Melvin Village. They're all different prices, and it all depends on how wide they are, how long they are, how deep the water is, and are they floating, are they this, that. So the quality of the dock does have a huge impact on the value.
Town shouldn't be in
Okay.
the
The
business.
length and the quality of the dock does.
John?
So the question is, again, over and over, who should pay for the docks? Should the taxpayers pay for the docks so that we can rent them out to people so that they can make money? The docks downtown, where the people are getting $1,600 a day, and we're getting a fee of $270 or $56 a day. And we're renting out the Back Bay dock for $1,000 for the season. I sent Paul a comparable, it was $5,500 for a dock this spring. Again, nobody's answering the question why the taxpayers should pay for commercial people to make money.
Dave?
No.
I agree that that rent is too low. Do I have a problem raising the rent? No. I just don't like the formula. Am I supportive of raising the fees on these docks? I am. I think some of them are ridiculously low. But we're just kind of trying to decide
Yeah.
what we feel needs to be there, and then we can work at what it is. But I think that dock in Back Bay, we haven't raised it. We, as a board on our work plan, are going to keep track of this, and so that we look at our rates and that we do it more regularly. I think that's a great idea. Same with our leases. I think we will be more effective and we'll get better prices. I'm not against raising, I'm just not for his formula.
Dave? I would, if those docks were rebuilt and that dock becomes accessible, then I would say the value would have to go way up. And to Paul's point, maybe we stop using it as a rental for the jet ski operation and they have to find something else. But right now, that dock is not usable by the general public, in my opinion. It shouldn't be. And so we're getting some value from it for what I consider an asset that shouldn't be used by the general public anyway. So I consider it kind of a win. Yeah. Do I think it should go up a little bit? I think so also. That it should go up a little bit because we haven't raised it in how long?
I think it's 2 years, 3 years. No, we're slow at raising our rates.
Yeah.
And I hope if we get this chart, that when this comes in, we look at, it's part of our work plan. I think we as a board have identified that this is an area we need to move forward on and have a system to raise the rates and keep an eye on the leases and where the leases should be. I think that's sound, and I support that as a board.
So, Dave?
Like one more here.
Okay.
So again, why don't we get the money first, then we can build the docks rather than the taxpayers paying for the docks first? Again, we have a nice dock downtown, but we're saying, okay, if the dock is rebuilt, then we can get more money for it. Well, we have a nice dock down here, so we should be getting some money for it. But I haven't heard anybody say that they want to get more money for the dock.
Can I say something?
I mean, we just said that, both of us.
Don't believe, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
I don't believe for a second that we should be in the business of making money off our docks. Bad idea. Government shouldn't do that. I hate to do the government thing. I offered as a thought down at the Libby, the way you deal with setting prices down there is you do a cost of capital, life cycle of the dock, and you come up with a metric that says, here's how much revenue we need to charge so we can refresh those docks and they don't look like whatever, and we do agree that barge owners should go in there. I have no problem with that. When I thought about this Back Bay area, I couldn't come up with a metric that says recover your capital plus recover your cost plus contribution to capital. The only metric I could come up with was comparables, like businesses around there. I'm still not a big believer that we should be in the business, but if we're gonna, then I say we do it on a comps basis. I think I heard both of my colleagues say it should go up a little. I don't know what a little means. I'm going to still argue like crazy that if we're going to do it, we do it by comps. But down there at the Libby, if we're going to do it, we do it based upon the fact it's getting used, scoured, and we want to recover our costs. We don't want to lay that on the taxpayer, and we don't want to lay that on the Libby Museum. So that one I think I got figured out. This one I just want to do on comps, but my motion failed quite miserably, and I thank you very much for allowing it.
So I have talked to Victor Druin to find out some history of the jet ski business, and he said that that location was chosen because it was unutilized, that it was not ever docked at, that boats almost never went there, that the current board at the time looked and said, well, here's a place that nobody uses, that's why they chose that spot.
That was then.
Now, that was then. Now, a broken-down ranch house gets $1,200 a month rent. A brand-new ranch house gets $3,000 a month rent. So yes, if you rent out a broken-down junky dock to someone, you're not going to get as much. So you can't charge a high value to collect money to build a dock if you're renting out a lousy dock. You just can't.
We're getting out of hand here.
I will make a comment. I'll let go.
Go ahead.
I'm ready to go home.
I'm ready to go home. I make a motion to adjourn.
Hang on.
It is 20 minutes to 7, and we have some other stuff. Is there anything else we want to deal with tonight? The pricing we're gonna put off for right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to figure that out.
On the pricing, can we look at some criteria that we would like to have in a chart, that it gives us something concrete to look at?
Hell yeah.
And we agreement that we want to look at something
Hell
like
yeah.
that? Okay.
And can we have agreement too that when possible, we should look at what other ports are charging for like things? The Mount Washington, for instance, we charge $2,000 more than any other port.
I think we call that
It
comparables.
Yeah.
Okay?
We'll look at all that.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, we should.
Okay, is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up as far as the ordinances are concerned tonight?
No.
Because I'm going to ask, is there any other business? If I don't see any.
We have it?
Now we're going to open it to public.
On the ordinance, there was one thing that I didn't understand why we were going the way we were going. So on F, it says boat trailers may be parked at Filter Bed Road parking lot from April 1st through October 1st, and then we changed it to Indigenous Peoples' Day. Why do we do that? Who did that? Why don't we just keep the date?
Oh, it looks like it was done before tonight.
I'm not sure.
So the
Do you
question
want to
is,
make a motion to remove it?
the question is, you want the
Well, I
parking to
didn't
be
know why it
April
was
1 to
added,
October
so I
1?
don't know if there was a motion to add it.
It was at some point, yes.
Well, there's the yellow things are like what the suggestions, like the $5,000 on number 6 shall be added to the barge company. So I was wondering if somebody had suggested that, and that's how it got on there.
I don't think we voted on them, it was discussion.
I don't recall us talking about calling it
I don't
that.
even,
I don't think we did. I think it just,
10-1. 10-1, right?
yep.
So I
that's-
do
that's-
think,
and
I
whatever it
think
is.
staff gets a lot of feedback throughout the course of the year, toward October, that people tend to stay at their places through Columbus Day, Indigenous People
Sure.
Day, whatever, and I think that's probably how that got put into
The
that
name,
matrix.
The name.
XYZ Day.
Doing that, it's political. I think we should just stick with our dates and be neutral.
I'm fine with that.
I'm
You
fine
making
with that.
that a motion?
No,
Motion,
You are?
no,
motion. Keep it at 10-1.
I don't need to.
Well,
So you want to leave it?
hold on, I have one question. 10-1
It's not Columbus Day.
is not Columbus Day or Indigenous Day or whatever. It falls before that, usually. So we could do it till the second Monday in October
That
or
would
the
be the
third Monday in October and call it a day.
I agree with you.
Or
I do
the
too.
end of the third week in October, whatever the board wants to use, I don't care.
Jim, why don't you and staff figure out what the right date is? As long as it's not the first day that the Supreme Court meets, that will be fine.
Okay, is there anything else? that I'd like to-
Do you want to schedule another one, or do you want me, I'll go through and do this stuff, try to get it off to you next week. You have a regular board meeting next week?
We have a regular board meeting next week.
Okay,
We can probably pick a date after that.
from that point, okay, good.
Yep.
Could I suggest at that regular board meeting, we just maybe get a straw person from you as to what you think you could provide us, and we just we just tell you if that makes sense to us, and then off we go. I think that would help. Okay, thanks.
Okay, public comment.
Short one, Sandy McKenzie here. Can everybody hear me okay? Or
Yes.
We're good.
I'm recovering from a little surgical problem here.
There you go.
Okay. So, watching on TV, past couple of meetings, it's come up that from some selectmen why is the mailboat iconic? So I made a short list for you. I can trace it back to the 1920s, the 20s and the 30s. It was operated by Oscar York under contract to the Postal Service. Lived on Sewell Road. It was a Columbia. It was 60 feet long. I have no information on the capacity on that. And that's where they used to come in. That's where you used to pick up the mail here. And then after that, it was Lawrence Beck on the Tonamar, and then operated from 41 to 65. And that was 44 feet in length and carried 45 passengers. And it's now called the Great Escape, and it's fully restored and presently lives in Welsh's Island in Guilford. 1966 to 72, Colonel Hodges secured the contract. He had the Gray Ghost, which was a 28-foot lineman. We carried 10 people on that. I worked for him the first year he operated 1 day a week. I was a dockhand at Goodhue and Hawkins at that point in time, when still owned by Nat Goodhue. And he hired me on my day off, and I ran the boat for him 1 day a week. And then 3 years later, after college, I was running it pretty much full-time for him. He passed away in 73. His widow, Priscilla, ran it for 1 year. And hired me to run it full-time, which I did. And then she decided she didn't want anything to do with it. So I was able to subcontract the contract and assume the contract and bought the boat from her and continued with that for 3 more years. And I bought the Gray Ghost. That's the Gray Ghost. And then in 77, I bought the Blue Ghost, which was a slightly smaller boat, 26-foot lineman. Again, capacity was 12 passengers. And I operated for that for 20 years. It was an inboard fiberglass. And then after that, I had the Blue Ghost 2, operated from 1998 till 2008. It's a 26-foot fiberglass tri-hull by Glastron. And then from 2008 to 2023, I leased my boats. They were all pontoon boats from Dive Winnipesaukee, hence his name showing up on all previous insurance, because I was told that they could only issue a landing permit to whoever had the insurance binder. So I got Tom Waxsmith to submit, even though I was leasing a boat from him. it was a lease arrangement, and he did all my reservations till 2008. And then I got rid of that glass drawn, and then from 2008 to 23, I leased the various boats from Dive Winnipesaukee, various pontoon boats. They would vary from year to year. He supplied the boat. I basically paid for the gas and insurance and so forth. But I leased a boat from him anyway, and then he did all my bookings for me. And then 2024, my son Isaac had been running it for me for a couple of years because I was living out west. And so he's been running it for the past 4 years. Last year, he decided he would like to have his own boat. So he made arrangements to purchase parts to build his own boat, and that's what he did, and he built it and used it last year. So anyway, that's just to keep you updated.
Thank you.
Because I know in previous meetings, some of you selectmen didn't realize how iconic, quote unquote, I don't know where that word quite came from, but how iconic the mailboat is. But as you can see, it's been around for at least 110 years, probably longer than that, but I don't have any history of it. So anyway, that's it.
Can you submit that paper to our town manager?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, it's good to have a history.
It is.
Okay, anybody else for public comment?
I got other history in the docks if you want, but I don't.
Come on up.
There you go.
So when you talk about the...
State your name, please.
Jody Person.
Thank you.
When you talk about the Druins with the jet ski business, I'm not sure. I tend to believe that nobody else wanted them. No one else would want who would want a jet ski business at like Sawmill or at the Wolf Trap, or I think they went in there because they had an opportunity. They talked their way in there, and I really think that should be stopped. I mean, I personally, I don't know. Is there a set number of jet skis they're allowed to have at that dock? Does anybody know that? Because as we're having this meeting, when I drove over here, they're just shoehorning those in like sardines on that side, all the way like this. And I don't know if they hadn't. I thought it was 4 jet skis in the beginning, but I could be wrong. But now they're just from shore all the way out like this, putting them like this. And then what's next? Out here. I mean, I'm just trying to state facts with what I've seen there. And my other thing is that business name under Nate's, is that in Nate's name or his father's? The reason I say that is because I'm not 100% sure if he got a felony charge down in Florida for the breaking and entering or whatever trouble he got in, but if he has a felony charge, I really feel like the town of Wolfeboro should not be in business with a felon. That's my feeling on that. If it's not a felony charge, then if it's a misdemeanor or whatever, that's different. But if it's a felony charge, I really think we shouldn't be in business with Nate Druin if it's in his name. And that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Good evening. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Devin Kurtz. I'm the new executive director of the New Hampshire Boat Museum, and it is great to be here tonight, and thank you for our home for Millie B. But I also wanted to reiterate our honor to be part of the Wolfeboro community, whether it's our special collections here on our site in Wolfeboro or our sailing school or our boat building school. We are still viable members of this community. I just wanted to reiterate that and to meet all of you. And as a new resident here in Wolfeboro, I'm excited to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Pretty cool.
Okay.
My name is Kathy Fairman, and I am the owner of the Wolfeboro Trolley Company. That's not a boat, but I have a very special place in my heart for boats. I love them. And I will first acknowledge that I have a special interest in the Millie Bee because it was the Wolfeboro Trolley Company that originally brought the Millie Bee to town in 1998. My partner, Dick Eaton, and I went off to Lake George to bring that back after Judge Sewell was no longer in such good health, could not run that summer, and we thought, well, we've got to have a boat in town so we can give boat rides. So we brought the Millie Bee back, and the answer to the question, yes, we did pay for White Mountain Survey to do all the work, all the applications, and get all the permits from the state of New Hampshire, and paid for the construction of the original dock in 1998, which was replaced. It lasted pretty well, I think, all things considered. And the Millie Bee had found its home here then. So appreciate that. Devin and I were just discussing, and you checked with somebody, the Millie Bee is 6 feet wide. And so I had one of the same two things that you suggested. One, I asked him, could it go in? Could the mailboat go where the mount was? And the same step-down problem that the Millie Bee originally had. That's why we built the step-down dock. And then it's just not wide enough for the boat to go in there. It was another good idea. A couple of things I'd just like to bring up, and thoughts that I had as you were going through this tonight. And I have to just say that I'm really in favor of including everybody that wants to come to the party. When the reason, and this goes back to justifying why you can consider very, very logically charging less than what you might think instead of market value, is because of the extreme value these businesses bring to this town. You don't want to ever forget that these are completely seasonal businesses. There is no boat ride business in the wintertime. In fact, it's pretty darn limited, starting after Labor Day right up through the 4th of July. And yet they are a huge attraction to our town and very, very important to the economic vitality of our community. The first thing that's the most important thing to the economic basis of our town is that lake right out there. Oh, the little ones are darn good too. But and then the businesses that bring the people here are very important, whether they're vacationers that stay overnight, whether they're even on a charter bus. You ask the businesses downtown if that makes that hour and a half those people are here make a difference. The people of Mount Washington drops off. There are reasons for people to come to town, and every time we have another reason, it helps us together and to work together to make us and continue to be the oldest summer resort in America. We like that. So I urge you to find a way if you can. When the jet ski business, when the Druins first came and they wanted to run the jet skis, they asked to have permission to run them out of the town docks. And I spoke against that, not because I didn't know that a jet ski business was important to our community, because it's something people want to do. It's like water skiing when I was a kid. You know, my great-grandparents had a steamboat. They never thought about water skiing, but the newer things, and that's why wakeboards are important, and the boats that have the surf, they all have a place, and we need to find a place so that they can be here, so that we can offer as much as we can to the people who want to come here, the customers, the people that keep our town going in the way that we all want to have it continue. So we suggested that it would be better if the jet skis went to Back Bay. Primary reason, safety. There's a lot going on down at the town docks here, and we have inexperienced young people getting on a jet ski, going out into the water. We've got the Mount coming in, we've got the Millie Bee coming in and out, we got all the public docks, public boats coming and going. Some of those don't have the most experienced people. So for that reason, I'm going to offer this suggestion, and that is that at the public docks, the drop-off location, and if you have a map of it, I could look at it to refresh my memory, but as I recall, the original place we had the drop-off and pick-up location was sort of right next to where the fireboat is on the opposite side. Then we moved it to this step-down dock, which is parallel to the Millie Bee, which is where we're talking about now. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't given a lot of attention to the docks for a while, but And that was a good place for it. And now you're suggesting 5 boats be going in and out of that pickup and drop-off location when you've still got the Mount coming in, you've got the Millie B going in and out. We're adding to congestion there. I'm suggesting that you go back, Dave's saying, oh no, let's not change things. The handicap docks used to be all the way on the other side near Dave Bauer's property. And I understand that the dock attendants are suggesting that they like to put the big boats over there that are coming in to park. That's a nice idea. And I can see that that might be a good place for the mailboat to be over there where it's larger. But I think that if you had your pickup and drop off and handicap place over there, it would really help with the congestion around where the other commercial docks are. One reason being that if you're picking up and dropping off, instead of coming in and backing out, which is always dangerous, backing up, they can actually come in and circle and then line up to go right back out, which could expedite the drop-off and pickup. I also see that we really seem to have, as it's progressed this evening, we have 2 kind of areas of boats. We have drop-off and pick-up charter type things going on, and there are probably more that are already happening. People going out on fishing things, and there's other stuff that people go in and drop off and pick up. So we know that. But so these are the official ones that we are actually coming and looking for a landing for you, right? And then you have the ones like the Millie B and the Mount Washington, which are offering public boat rides and buy tickets, whether they buy the tickets by reservation or they can walk up and buy tickets. That's kind of a different business than the drop off and pick up with reserve. So that's a way to think about that. Now I'm going to throw into the fact that it's very possible that we may have the Winnie Bell coming back another year. It's not out this year, but it's going to be back in the water next year probably. We don't know where on the lake it's going to be. But there are other boats, the charter boats that come in. I'm sure the Spirit, when it comes in to pick up a charter in Wolfeboro, it must be coming into the Wolfeboro docks or whatever. That's the Mount Washington. I don't know where that is. It's just not coming in here at all? I don't know. But
I actually helped them a couple of times come into the yacht club.
okay, so that's where they could, that's a possibility. So I had one question, Paul, when you talked about the customers, competing with your customers, which customers were you talking about?
This is public input, and I'll answer.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay.
I'm sorry. We just went through training the other day. If we start having a conversation, then we're having a public hearing, and we're...
Okay, good to know.
Not trying to be a persnickety.
No, that's fine. No, I got you. That's a good point. So I was just curious about that. So these were just the directions that the conversations, thoughts that passed through my mind. The last thing is that I think we want to realize that when it comes to resolving these things, compromise, negotiation, and cooperation are what really get us going. And then when it comes all around to it, I can't help but resist but saying, we're all really in the same boat. Thank you.
Okay.
Isaac McKenzie, Blue Ghost 3. All right. So it's been made apparent that the board may need some more history and background information on the mailboat and myself. So I was born in Wolfeboro, not even at Huggins, born in a family home on Pine Hill Road, home my Aunt Amy Swanick now owns. My grandfather, Jim Swanick, was head of maintenance at Kingswood for many years, as well as Bald Peak. My grandmother, Rosemary, used to be a nun. She married Jim, had 6 kids, and became a home economics and sex education teacher at Kingswood. My sister married the Doobies and is a kindergarten teacher at Carpenter. My mother, stepfather, and brother-in-law are all board members on the Children's Center. My father's side has roots going back to the Baker Estates in town, where he spent summers growing up as a kid. My grandfather and my father once owned Rattlesnake Island before it was sold and developed. Hippo used to work for them. They also owned Copple Crown before it was sold and developed. I didn't inherit anything in this town except the mailboat contract. My first job at 5 years old was first mate for my father delivering mail on the Blue Ghost 2. I grew up on this lake, helping my father share its rich history with everyone. The mailboat itself has much more history beyond the almost 60 years my family has held the contract. The Tonamar was just at the town docks last summer for a boat show, and under its new name, The Great Escape. Captain Beck used to run the boat and contract from 1941 to 1965 at Alton. Then in a bid against my father and grandfather, Colonel Hodges, father of B.G. Hodges, won the contract. My father and grandfather ended up captaining the Gray Ghost for the colonel until he passed. The widow wanted nothing to do with the contract, so it defaulted to my father. The mailboat has had a home in Wolfeboro since the Gray Ghost, but the mailboat was coming into Wolfeboro much like the Mount Washington since before the Tonamar and when it was the Columbia. The Tonamar was 44 feet long, and the Columbia was 60 feet long. Yes, my boat is a little bit bigger than my father's previous boats, but there's a good reason for that. We needed something stable and reliable, something unique and custom built again. I'm out there on the worst days delivering mail and fulfilling the contract. On those days, I'm lucky to see another boat on the lake or on the recreational docks in Wolfeboro. I'm there 6 days a week, even late in the season, when the boats that crowd the dock dissipate. The dive shop is the business partner. Before them, the Wolfeboro Bay Outfitters, where I actually used to work and help sell tickets for the mailboat, sold our tickets for us. We don't want to be online. We get older demographics that like the store you go into and buy tickets. We get repeat customers from all over the country and even the world that come to Wolfeboro just to do the mailboat every year. Yet most people in town forget we have a mailboat. I went to the Marine Corps after high school, got married, had a kid, and followed an equivalent civilian career for 10 years. My father was getting old, and the dive shop was helping him run the contract and leasing us boats. I'm now a single father with an 11-year-old daughter who goes to school in Wolfeboro, and my mother helped raise us. I took over managing the contract about 7 years ago. It was mostly to keep my father's retirement supplemental income continuing. I started captaining 1 day a week, hiring help the other 5, and continued working full-time job, commuting to Mass and all over New England. Eventually, I was able to convince my employer to switch me to 4 days a week so I could drive the boat 2 days a week. Until last year, the very boat we leased from the dive shop was also being leased by Wake Winnie. I would, from time to time, try to do a handful of charters outside the mail run, much like my father did from the very beginning. Nothing has changed. It was a bit of a hassle because I would have to coordinate using the boat outside of the mail run with Torin and Jenny. Torin tried offering me a job working for him doing charters multiple times, and I told him no thanks. Then in 2023, toward the end of the season, he told me he wants to handle all charters for the boat and basically kept me from doing any private charters. I told him okay, and that I was going to build a new boat. I told him I'm not trying to be competitive and just want to bring the mailboat back to life and that we can still share the space and work together. So I built a boat. I literally planned, designed, sourced, assembled piece by piece with my own 2 hands. It took me 5 months of planning. I drove to Ohio and back nonstop, missed my daughter's Festival of Trees dance performance just to get the trailer and hull supplies. It took me another 5 months of all my spare time and money, and I got done just in time for the season last year. Obviously, there is still hurdles I deal with today. Insurance. I couldn't afford a boat like Torin or expect it to be reliable like my contract requires. I cashed out my 401k, quit my job, gave up health insurance so I could spend more time in Wolfeboro and watch my daughter grow up. My father also invested his pension from his 31 years on the Wolfeboro Call Force and full-time fire department, so that Wolfeboro money being invested back in the town and his legacy. It's no longer supplemental income for my father retiring. It's now supplemental income for both of us and my livelihood. I make less than half of what I used to and live on about $2,000 a month. I now go to school at Lakes Region Community College in the off-season using my GI Bill. I'm learning marine maintenance because there's a shortage and a demand around here. I'm trying to make a living. One summer, I had the advantage. One summer, as Torin puts it. That's it. Now it doesn't even look like the boat I spent all that time and money on will even go in the water this year. He literally held the monopoly and tried to keep me from benefiting the way he did. He now owns 6 $250,000 boats, as he brags, and 5 properties in town, some that are used as Airbnb. I can't afford to even be a taxpayer in this town. All I can afford is a boat I have to build myself and try to make it work for year-round living. Torin plays David while bragging about being Goliath. He claims that he can buy my boat 4 times over, but it's not fair he can't get a spot for a boat that big. After I completed building the boat by hand, he came over to the yacht club to see it and couldn't even give me one positive compliment. It was all condescending and passive-aggressive. He claimed I would never be able to afford insurance on the boat, and then when he goes after the town, I would suffer. I quote, he said, "When he goes after the town, I will suffer." The truth is, the only motive I can see behind his gripes is selfishness and spite. I simply saw my family's legacy being used as a side parlor trick for his charter monopoly. He clearly didn't like that I wouldn't work for him or would in any way compete with his business. I just want the board to realize the precedent they will be setting if they cater to Torin's selfish gripes, as well as just what they will be taking away from the people who visit the town docks if they turn away the mailboat. We charge a reasonable and affordable price for individuals to get out there on the lake for 2 to 3 hours. $45 an adult, $25 for kids, 5 and under are free. And they help deliver mail, memories. You were on the boat at 6, that's a memory. We share history and we create memories. We give an extensive history tour. Millie B does a great job, but we give a much longer tour with lots of history. Our tour is more intimate and has more stops than the Sophie C. I'm not the Mount Washington flagship company or touring with a fleet of boats. I'm carrying on a legacy as a third-generation captain and boat builder, as well as the history that followed the mailboat in the lakes past. As far as the handicap spot, I built the new boat with being handicap accessible in mind. The wide front gate is being able to pull up to the front dock and fit a wheelchair or whoever may need to get on a boat easier. The old handicap spot used to be on the end, so handicapped people would have more room to dock. Can come in at a wider approach. There was already an issue with people hitting the old electric boat. I don't think you want to put a handicap spot behind the fireboat if you want to minimize the risk of it being damaged. Correct. A lift is just going to be abused or damaged in the late hours by young teens, or it's just another expensive, unless we've had complaints about people that can't seem to get on their boats that are handicapped or are struggling, I don't. And talking about taking the money from the commercial people to afford these extra luxuries. I mean, these are luxuries, the dock attendants, that's luxuries for the recreational boaters. I mean, that's the one thing that changed. The mailboat doesn't change. We do the same thing we've always done. We do a handful of charters outside the mail run, but yeah, nothing has changed. We still do charters outside the contract like my father always did. What changed the amount of boats in the lake and people wanted to come to Wolfeboro. The dock hands are a luxury for the recreational boats, so why would we punish commercial boats for these things? I have a federal service to provide. I'm happy to pay something comparable to the jet skis. Maybe at $50 a foot, my boat would be about $1,500 a year. I've always thought that what we pay for landing permit was unfair, and that's why I always generously overestimate landings. I still have a boat I'm trying to get return investment on in a handful of years, so competitive rates is going to make some decisions a lot harder, and I already have a lot on the line. We also have a federal mail contract that should speak enough. The boat isn't owned by a parent company. I created an LLC because I was advised to protect myself. The dive shop helped keep the contract going, and Tom has always been a good business partner, arguably the most important man to network with on the waterfront. He gave me a space to build the boat, and I need someone to lend me a spare boat, as the contract requires, to minimize disruption during downtime. Tom has always helped me on the waterfront, always helped people on the waterfront get businesses going, and everyone always works together. I don't do wake sports, so I refer business to Torrin. Other wake boats like Tom Anderson tried and didn't stay, but Torrin has been very successful with his fleet of 6 boats and employees. I'm sure it took hard work, but Tom helped him as well. The very mail spot and mailboat helped him become king of charters in the Wolfeboro waterfront. So I had an advantage for 1 year, and now you guys are going to give him what he wants by taking the advantage he had away from everybody. If Wolfeboro doesn't value the mailboat, then I'll have to figure something out. Maybe Alton or Tuftonboro would be happy to have us. Unfortunately, the Wolfeboro Wind Dock isn't zoned commercial, so that would not be an option, like I previously mentioned. There was talk about moving the Marine Patrol boat so we can get out sooner. The Marine Patrol guy lives on the other side of Alton. It takes him 15 minutes just to get to the Wolfeboro Town docks if he had to respond to something. The boat sits at the dock more than it goes out. I'm out there 6 days a week. The rest of us all get along and work together symbiotically on the waterfront. Wake Winnie is the outlier. I've been a part of the waterfront for a long time. I worked for Mike Connolly in high school and helped weld and refurbish those historic railings between the bridge and the pier. I can't necessarily go to the dive shop or somewhere else because my boat is too wide, too long. I built it based on the spot we had, so I'm kind of SOL now that the boat is built and suddenly things are changing. Island guests, Mr. Purdy, I like him. He's a good guy, and I don't know if he was necessarily talking about the mailboat, but he's an Alton Island resident. Barn Door and Little Barn Door are Alton Islands. He has a home on the Wolfeboro waterfront, but he goes out to Little Barn Door Island in the summer. We deliver mail to him. He's a mail customer. But Barn Door and Little Barn Door are Alton Islands. They're not Wolfeboro Islands. But we do deliver to Alton, Tuftonboro, and Wolfeboro. The no wake buoy, you guys mentioned that. That disappeared shortly after 4th of July last year. The 150-foot Arno wake buoy, and I did mention it to the town. I don't know if it ever got resolved. I don't know if somebody took it as a souvenir, but just for some more clarification, it's 150 feet, not yards. They don't use yards. It's 150 feet from all docks and boats while above headway speed. That $1,600 water slide boat that John mentioned, Wake Winnie, actually rents that out and not just charter it, like they do with some of their boats. I spend time at the docks, mingling with townsfolk and tourists, answering questions. I clean up trash around the picnic tables in the dock. I wish I'd known this was all going to happen before I'd put it all on the line and built a new boat. Next to joining the Marine Corps and having kids, this boat is the biggest commitment I've made. You know, you guys, again, like my father did, you know, you guys keep talking about the Mount Washington's iconic, the Millie B's iconic, and again, part of what I was doing was trying to remind people that the mailboat has history and to bring the boat back to life. And, you know, I put in a FOIA request for these emails, Mr. O'Brien, and nothing against you. I just wanted to see what Torrin was saying. And this is a hit. This is 100% a hit for his own selfish gripes. I mean, and now we've got the Millie B and whoever. I mean, it's become this whole issue. And now I think he's realizing that he might screw himself over. But I just want it to be clear that we shouldn't beat around the bush. This is all happening because of Torrin's gripes. And I just want you guys to know the background. And that it may not be what you think it is, that you're really hurting the little guy and helping the big guy here if you cater to his gripes. So,
Okay,
so thank you.
it's now 7:15. Anybody have any other business? Otherwise, I'll close the meeting.
Would you like a motion to
Yes,
adjourn?
I would.
Also moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.